apologizing.
You're not going to apologize.
No, why should I?
Well, then go.
I'm sorry. You're not apologizing? No. Why am I supposed to? Well, then leave. He had the voice, the attitude, and the audience on his side. So, why did Simon Cowell choose not to even look at this contestant again? What began as a strong performance became one of the most explosive moments in X Factor history. The cameras captured the mic drop. The audience overheard the tirade. But what ensued was kept secret until today. Simon made a choice that stunned the whole production, reports say. This is not just about music. This is about rebellion, control, and the contestant who goaded X Factor too far. The six-chair gauntlet. The six-chair challenge was never supposed to be a cakewalk. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Star Vault TV, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Indeed, it was deliberately created to test contestants to the limit. While hopeful warmth greeted early auditions or dramatic tension live shows, this round was all pressure. You had just one chance to wow the judges, just one opportunity to bag a seat, and even then that seat might be snatched away from you seconds later. It was a trial not only of skill, but of stamina, showmanship, and crowd handling in the type of venue that was more like a battlefield than a concert hall. In 2015, the strain came to breaking point, and it wasn't long before events ran out of control in ways the producers didn't think were possible. Wembley Arena was full of more than 5,000 that day. Every face in the crowd was prepared to cheer, to boo, and respond to whatever pandemonium happened on stage. The judges occupied their accustomed positions. Simon Cowell, Rita Ora, Cheryl Fernandez-Versini, and Nick Grimshaw, ready for days of performing, their faces maintained but already fatigued. Everyone knew that this round was merciless, but no one could be prepared for how awkward things were going to become. Among the dozens of acts lined up to perform was a 21-year-old named Mason Noyes. He wasn't a household name, not yet. In fact, most viewers probably hadn't remembered much about his first audition, which aired for less than a minute during the earlier stages. It was a blink and you miss it kind of edit. But those who were there in person knew he had something. Mason had given a strong performance combining R&B, pop, and his own singing style. He was dressed smartly, moved with purpose, and appeared unfazed by all the commotion around him. That mere presence would have been enough to make him a standout. But on the X Factor, being noticed could be both good and bad, particularly in a round like this where spectacle was called for and feelings ran high. Backstage, producers were working under the gun. Everything had to go quickly. Performers were brought in and out. Song selections were double-checked. Microphones were adjusted. Cameras were reset. The format had no margin for error, and any minute could turn from mundane to unforgettable in an instant. Contestants climbed higher, fell, or, in a very few instances, did something totally unpredictable. Mason remained still in the midst of the turmoil. He had been called. He stepped forward, emerged under the spotlights, and assumed his position at the focal point on the stage. The audience applauded him with civilized approval, the sort of applause accorded to someone whom the public hadn't yet decided about. He gave the judges a brief nod, microphone in hand, poised to sing. The song began. It was a contemporary medley, smooth and lively. He drew from performers such as Justin Timberlake and The Weeknd, blending falsetto with rhythm, executing vocal runs smoothly. He danced competently, but didn't push it. There was restraint to his presence that suggested experience. He was not merely attempting to win over the audience. He was demonstrating that he was already there. When he finished the performance, there was a brief pause, the kind of pause where everybody waits for the initial judge to comment. Mason remained motionless. The audience applauded. Some of them even cheered. The panel looked at each other slightly surprised. It had not been a bad performance. Far from it. If anything, it was one of the more professional ones of the day. But then the silence lingered just a fraction longer. No immediate feedback. No instant bravo. No Simon smirk. Something didn't seem right. Mason tightened his mic, looked toward the audience, and took a breath. He had something to say, and in the next few seconds, everything was going to shift. For the majority of the contestants, making it to the six-chair challenge was a dream. For Mason Noyes, it had come with a chip on his shoulder. What few in the audience were aware of, what most viewers at home totally missed, was that his original audition had hardly seen the light of day. While other performers were shown in lengthy montages, complete with interviews, response, and long segments of their singing, Mason's was condensed to 47 seconds. That lingered with him deeply. He was not upset merely for the sake of being melodramatic. In his mind, it was personal. He had given a good performance in the previous round. The judges had reacted favorably. So, why was his airtime chopped so brief? Why was his name hardly ever mentioned while other competitors saw their history told in full? Those 47 seconds became more than a figure. They were a sign of all the things that seemed wrong with the process. So, when Mason arrived at Wembley Arena for the six-chair challenge, he did not just go there to sing. He had something to say and something to prove. Upon completing his meticulously prepared medley, tension in the room was already high. He had struck all the right notes. He'd performed, and it should have put him in strong competition for one of the six chairs. But he wasn't waiting on the judges to determine his destiny. Before anyone on the panel could get a word in, Mason faced the audience. "I've got something to say," he started. At first, it was silent, with only a few scattered noises from the crowd. Then he spoke louder. "You know what? I invite you all to record this or raise your phones. They ain't going to kick 4,000 or 5,000 people out." He was not kidding. Mason was actually appealing to the audience to capture what was taking place. He wanted this moment caught. Whatever was going to happen next, he wanted it on tape. The judges seemed shocked. Simon Cowell particularly. "Mason, just 1 second," Simon snapped. "What are you entitled to say that?" Mason did not back away. "With the first audition I saw on Saturday, people had 10-minute slots, and I went to 47 seconds. That's when it all changed." The crowd reacted instantaneously. Some clapped, some looked puzzled. Most just sat there, not knowing if this was what they'd come to watch or something entirely spontaneous. Simon's reaction was quick and brutal. "Mason, let me tell you something. You are 5 seconds from being dumped off the stage, and I mean that." He wasn't yelling, but the warning in his tone was unmistakable. The atmosphere between judge and contestant had become ugly and quick. "Don't tell me how long you should be on this program," Simon concluded. "If you have a problem, then just leave." This was an unmistakable threat. Apologize and leave or go. But Mason wasn't going to apologize. Not after what he felt had been done to him. The tit-for-tat went on for a few more seconds. Mason dug in his heels. Simon insisted on an apology. Mason did not. Then came the moment of truth. Simon glared at him. "Well then, go." Mason said no more. He dropped the mic, walked away from the stage, and exited with his performance partner following him. The whole arena was left in dumbfounded silence. Suddenly, a promising contestant was lost. Not because of his talent, but due to what he had chosen to say and how he had decided to say it. What followed would cause shock waves throughout the production of the show, the judges' panel, and the X Factor fan base. Behind the scenes, however, another storm was building, and Simon Cowell's response would soon lead the whole scenario in a totally different direction. There were few moments in X Factor history that had disintegrated as fast or in as open a manner as the public fight between Simon Cowell and Mason Noyes. What started out as a performance became a standoff, and when the lines were established, neither of the men budged. When Simon told him, "You are 5 seconds away from getting thrown off the stage," he meant it. It wasn't a written moment or a ratings stunt. It was raw instinct. The control Simon had over the show wasn't symbolic. He could stop a contestant's career dead in its tracks. And at that moment, Mason was pushing the limits of that power. To the panel, Mason's action seemed arrogant, disruptive, even disrespectful. To the judges, sitting through long hours of continuous performances, his abrupt speech was not only shocking, it was startling. The structure wasn't designed for contestants to take the mic and spout off. There was a timing to the show, a pattern, and Mason had discarded the pattern on live television. But Mason didn't blink. He didn't break under the pressure of the altercation. That in itself made it even more drama-filled. When Simon insisted on an apology, it was not about covering things up. It was a challenge, point blank. Either Mason respected the protocol breach, or he left. Mason left. When he dropped the mic and stepped off the stage, it wasn't for show. It wasn't hot-headed. It was calculated. He didn't yell, didn't slam off stage. He simply departed, still convinced that he had said what had to be said. Backstage, responses were divided. Some of the crew were taken aback, not knowing what to do. A handful admired Mason's courage. Some called it stupidity.